guys? It's Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 43, here with my always brilliant and beautiful, yes, he's looking beautiful tonight, folks, co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing tonight, brah?
Doing excellent, coming with the energy I can see. Excited to be back, lots to talk about, so how about you?
We back, baby. Yeah, guys, look, I know it's been a minute. I know that we have been a little irregular with the recordings lately, but this is the new time, and we're looking to do this very consistently every week. We are now recording on Sundays, and we will have a Monday release. This is the new Split Decision podcast schedule, and thank you guys so much for bearing with us over these last few weeks as we've gotten that sorted out. Enough about that boring stuff. Moving on to what's on tap today. First, we've got a UFC Singapore recap. Then we're going to jump into quick Bellator recaps. After that, UFC 244 preview and picks. Fight Geek, I was thinking about it, and I want your opinion here. I've decided that this is the card I feel most excited for 7 days out than any other card this year. What about you?
That level of excitement hasn't quite hit me yet, but as I kind of started looking over the card earlier today, it is a very solid card top to bottom, but I'm not quite feeling the hype yet.
You're not feeling the hype after all the drama with Nate?
Well, I mean, that is what we've been talking about. You haven't heard anything about Kelvin until, you haven't heard anything about how strong the card is, Wonder Boy's return. None of that. It's just been all about whether or not Nate's going to make it to the fight or not, and all the, USADA drama, which I guess has built some of the intrigue. But as far as the actual fighting goes, I think that we haven't really got a lot of focus on the rest of that card, which, like you said, is very good.
Absolutely. Okay, so I don't want to be all over the place. We're gonna get to the UFC Singapore recap question. I've got a question about Askren Maya in 1 second, but before I do that, Fight Geek, I want to ask you about UFC 244 and what happened in the last few days with Nate Diaz. In my opinion, Nate Diaz just broke USADA like a horse in front of the entire world, humiliated them, did it spectacularly. I'm a huge fan of what he did. He said, if you're going to tarnish my reputation and say I'm a cheater, then I'm out of the fight. I don't care about the money. I care more about my name, my legacy. I'm out until you completely, unequivocally say that I am innocent. And they did that within 24 hours. John Jones had that done, and it took him 1.5 years. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, he was in a position of leverage, and he wasn't going to budge. It is what it is. It was kind of a crazy turn of events.
Was it impressive, or were you?
Absolutely.
Are you,
I mean, it was an impressive moral stand by Nate for sure, because he had tons to lose financially and in the public eye if he were to go forward with, provisionally being allowed to fight even though he tested for something. You know how the court of public opinion is. People would have held that over him forever.
Okay, let me ask you this, Fight Geek. Is it more A, you're very impressed with him and what he did to clear his name, and this is a good thing, or B, does this not feel right? Are you more thinking Nate did cheat and USADA is corrupt and they want their money for the big fight?
No, I think that absolutely Nate did not cheat.
I agree with you.
I'm a firm believer that he's not a cheater. We've seen a lot of these different cases with the tainted supplements, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, you guys can read up on it. The science is all over the place. Yeah, I don't know how much of USADA you can actually trust now. We've seen, double standards all over the place. I think Mir and Tom Lawler are examples when you put them up against like a John Jones.
Well, especially after this weekend. How can you? I mean, USADA really took a loss. Can we agree on that?
Right.
This was a loss for them.
Absolutely. I didn't see it as much as a stain on USADA as it almost is on the UFC. I mean, the UFC came out in support, basically of Nate. That's what Dana did.
Yep.
But the UFC employs USADA to test their fighters. So he was kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth there, right?
Yeah, it was that's accurate. It was an odd
So,
situation.
I mean, to me, the credibility of the UFC takes as much of a hit here as does USADA, because UFC is so... I mean, I don't understand the role that USADA is playing if they're just going to provisionally overwrite things and move on and clear people's names arbitrarily. I mean, I'm happy for Nate, and I think it's the right thing, but there still seems to be no rhyme or reason.
Completely agree. Moving on, and we'll get back to UFC 244 later in the show, guys, with our preview and picks, and we'll dive a little bit more into this. But let's move on real fast to the UFC Singapore recap, and obviously the main event. Ben Askren does get submitted via rear naked choke from Damian Maia in the third round of that main event. And let me ask you this. What is next for Ben Askren? I don't know that I've ever seen a fighter get so high so fast after that Robbie Lawler win. Yes, it was controversial, but he was a superstar after that. And now, after these two losses, this one in particular, it feels like he's on the verge of getting cut. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but truly.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, he wasn't on the verge of superstardom. This isn't a guy who was in Toyo Tire commercials, or he wasn't in Monster commercials. He wasn't getting huge sponsorships. He was.
The fans were lapping him up after the Lawler.
I know. Well, he is a great personality to have around, but I don't think he was on the verge of superstardom. It was clear he was on the downside of his prime.
He was told to get a title shot if he beat Masvidal,
He did not beat Masvidal. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts in this game we could go, but he did not beat Masvidal. He's a little older. I'm not sure where he goes from here. I do think he should stick around. I was entertained by that fight. Regardless of your view of his striking and his fight style, he does seem to have a level of interest and intrigue and chaos around all of his fights, which I think is a good thing. I think there's fights out there for him. I think, a guy like Carlos Condit, off the top of my head, is an interesting fight between two older legends who haven't really had the best luck lately.
Yeah. I'm laughing. Sorry, I'm laughing at the Condit remark. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. It's because I tweeted, I think yesterday, that I in an argument to someone, I was saying, who's he going to beat? Carlos Condit? Are you sure? Are you
right.
sure?
I'm not sure.
Are you sure he'll beat Condit?
No, I'm not sure he'll beat him, but he has a grinding style. I think he can still beat a handful of guys in that division, and try to implement his wrestling. His game plan. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
I was more impressed with Maia's performance. Being able to lock in that submission and turn him off with basically one arm. That wasn't even a fully locked in choke. So I was really super impressed by that.
Yep.
I thought in that fight, Askren was starting to turn the tables with the cardio. I thought he was starting to look good. He was,
his uppercut was working, man. The uppercut looked great.
Yeah, well, his striking isn't great. He was landing and actually kind of busting up Maia a little bit in the face.
It was the uppercut. It was the uppercut.
It was a little bit of a strange action fight, a little sloppy in areas, but it was super entertaining. So for that reason alone, I think that Ben is a commodity to stay, because at least there's some intriguing chaos when he's involved, one way or another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that rematch with Robbie Lawler actually makes a lot of sense now. It could be like a prove it moment for him, and Robbie can get back a fluky loss potentially.
You know what? I think that's a great idea. I hate agreeing with you, but I think that Askren Lawler 2 right now is a great idea. I feel a little bad for Ben Askren, I won't lie, but I don't feel bad enough to not want that fight made. So, yeah.
Right. All right, cool.
Okay.
So what's next for Damian Maia? He called out Diego Sanchez, and I'm all for that.
Well, did you hear what Jorge Masvidal said about Damian Maia? He said, Damian Maia, please do not retire. I'm going to get the belt, and when I get the belt, I will grant you a title shot because I want that one back.
That's very interesting.
And you know what? Guys, if you're a nerd, if you want to be a fight nerd, and you're looking for a random weird fight from the last 5 years to go back on a Fight Pass and watch, go back and watch Maia versus Masvidal. I think it was on a Stipe Miocic led card, I think. Anyways, underrated fight and very close.
It was a chess match for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, are we ready to move on to the co-main?
Yes, let's do it.
Stevie Ray defeats Michael Johnson via majority decision, 29-28, 29-28, and then 28-28 a draw, the third judge said. What'd you think?
I thought they got it wrong. I had Michael Johnson 29-28. Thought he clearly won the first 2 rounds at range, striking, was busting up Ray. Obviously had a horrible third round, was somewhat gassed out and couldn't get up, but I definitely think he won the first 2 rounds. So I know there was little mixed results on social media about who won, but I felt like Johnson certainly won that. How about you?
Okay, so here's where look, I don't disagree with that too strongly. I mean, I disagree. I was fine with Ray winning. In my opinion, I think a draw might be the most accurate score. I think it was a draw, honestly. It was one of those weird draws. It was a weird fight. I was okay with Stevie Ray, but I think it was a draw, and I understand people saying Michael Johnson won. It was a weird fight.
Yeah, it was a weird fight. And Johnson was certainly like fading fast, so right. I think that was kind of
right. Okay, we're gonna, Darius won, defeating Frank Camacho, whatever. We have to talk about Surreal Gain defeating Don'Tale Mayes via heel hook submission with only 14 seconds left in the third round. Are you kidding me? Via heel hook submission, Fight Geek?
Yeah, I mean, for a heavyweight, I believe he finished his last fight via submission as well, right? So he's 2-0 in the UFC with 2 submission victories.
Yes, I believe.
And this is a guy that came in touted as a guy who was training with Francis Ngannou as a big striker, correct?
That's correct.
So he's a big striker who's now got 2 impressive submission finishes in the UFC. His first finish was against Pessoa, who won on this card and looked pretty solid as well. So couldn't be more impressed with the guy. I think you're seeing some great MMA skills, some versatility, not just a big slugger from Francis's camp. He's actually finishing via submission and taking advantage of openings there. So I think you got to be super impressed with the guy.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you wanted to cover on this card real quickly? We got to move fast, and I want to get to some very quick Bellator recaps.
Yeah, let's keep it moving. We got a lot to cover.
All right. Bellator recaps. I'm going to start with the biggest fight, Douglas Lima versus Rory McDonald 2. This was one of those rare fights where I put some action on it, actually. Put $100 on Douglas Lima to win that. And
that's rare?
Yeah. Well.
Or winning's rare.
Next question. Okay, just move. See what I'm dealing with? Don't give me that sass, Fight Geek. Listen.
So how'd you score the fight? Let's get to it.
I scored that. 50-45 Douglas Lima. Come at me, whatever. I know a lot of people said it was 4 rounds to 1. Whatever.
I have it 4 rounds to 1. I think in the first round there was so much respect. I think Lima landed 1 leg kick. Rory landed a big overhand right and then pinned him up against the cage. So I think it's easily round 1 for Rory. Obviously faded fast. So much respect shown to each other in that fight. Really think Rory was somewhat gun-shy out of respect for Lima's power and obviously his kicks. Just was really disappointed in Rory. You think back to Rory versus Robbie, even though he was taking damage, he always had an ability in his prime to really put offense on you. Combinations, knees, kicks, versatility, his jab. If you remember Rory in his prime, he would come out and really be pumping his jab and really get his striking rhythm going. And I just did not see him even try to implement that type of game plan. So it looked like he had really reserved the fact that Lima was the more powerful striker and he was just going to shoot for takedowns and try to replicate what won the first fight. And I just think it was a bad game plan. Lima looked great, did enough to win. Didn't really have any spectacular moments in the fight, in my opinion, but very workmanlike performance. That's my assessment. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I've been hearing a lot of this. Oh, Lima didn't look so great either. Look, he's
They
down.
were respecting each other. Those fighters have been in there with each other for 10 rounds. You're not just going to come out and steamroll someone like Rory or Lima. They're both very technically sound.
I mean, remember too, Lima's down 0-1 to Rory. I mean, he can't afford to be reckless.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
He's being smart. He won at the. We can both agree he at least won 4 rounds to 1, right?
Absolutely.
And that's a dominating performance.
Absolutely.
So
of course.
He did everything he needed to do. I heard Scott Coker talk about Lorenz Larkin getting the next shot. And
yeah, I heard that as well. And I'm not sure I love that, but I like getting new matchups, and I think Lima versus Larkin is a good one for the belt.
This is what I have to say to Lorenz Larkin. Lorenz, good luck. I wish you the best of luck. You're going to need it.
And as far as Rory's concerned, I think there's great fights for him left all over Bellator if he wants them. I think there's a trilogy with Douglas Lima down the road. I don't think anyone has a palate for that right now, but if Rory could come back and beat someone like a Koreshkov, if he could beat someone like a Michael Venom Page, or John Fitch in a second fight, since that was a draw, I think there's 3 easy fights to make with Rory if he still wants to continue. What do you think about those 3 fights?
So, yeah, this is interesting that it sounds like you want Rory to continue fighting. Is that correct? Yes. I think
Absolutely.
We went back and forth a little bit on Twitter on that. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. So this is interesting. So, I think that it's a very unique situation because Rory's been very vocal about not simply becoming Christian. I mean, he's been a Christian all his life. He's gone significantly more religious in the last few years. He's spoken about it. And he said on many occasions, that he's not so sure that he wants to hurt people anymore, which, to be honest, that's completely understandable, right? That means you're...
I think so.
So, yeah, I think that just means you're you don't want to beat up people and hurt them.
But do you think Rory McDonald is truly going to retire at 30 years old he didn't get blown out of the water in that title fight. He just wasn't.
Did he look like he wanted it? Come on.
No, but he's still technically one of the best fighters on that roster. Just because he lost a tough decision to Douglas Lima doesn't mean the guy's horrible. You don't think that it would be interesting?
It wasn't a close fight. It wasn't close. When you say tough decision, that makes it sound like it was close.
He was never close to being finished.
He's never close to winning either.
No, but Michael Venom Page got knocked out in 6 minutes?
I don't want him getting hurt, man.
Well, I don't want him getting hurt either. I just think the reality of the situation is he's 30 years old. He's still probably much too young to walk away. I think especially now, I'm not saying he's going to ever be the Rory in his prime, but I just don't see him walking away at 30 years old. I do believe he will fight again.
But again, and I hate bringing up religion with fighters because it's so irrelevant usually, but it's just not here. And Rory's saying, I'm not sure I want to hurt anyone, due to my religion.
Well, to my knowledge, he didn't say that after this most recent fight, did he?
Not immediate. No, we didn't. I mean, it just happened.
No, so he said that one time, so let's pump the brakes. He did have a bad performance. I get it. Whenever, MMA is very, we're all victims of the present. He looked bad on Saturday, so now he should retire. If he would have won, he would have been considered one of the greatest welterweights of all time. So it's very, very fine line with this stuff. We'll let the dust settle and see what happens. I think there's more fights out there for Rory McDonald. I think Lima has established himself as, is he a 2-time champion in Bellator now?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even 3, I'm not sure.
It's at least
definitely 2 times. So, I think everybody wins here. Rory came over from the UFC as a high-priced free agent. He won the belt from a great champion in Bellator, Lima, and then Lima had the opportunity in front of the whole world to win it back from a great UFC free agent. So I think in the end, everybody got what they wanted. They got 2 champions out of it, one homegrown and one that was the free agent. There's a trilogy out there. I
Okay.
think it would.
La-
Oh yeah, yeah. Go
Last
ahead.
question, and then we're moving on because we got to move on. If Douglas Lima were to go to the UFC, and this is a make believe question, it's not realistic. If he goes to the UFC, how far does he get, and does he fight for a title? Go.
He certainly could fight for a title.
Does
I
he
can
win
see
it?
him.
Can he win a belt?
Does he have the skill set to win a belt? I don't know if he would be able to defend the takedowns of some of the truly elite, but I do believe he'd be a top 5 in that division currently and easily a title challenger.
Okay. Okay. Great. And then last question. I lied. Does Rory re-sign with Bellator because his contract's over? Does the UFC come in?
No, I think the UFC's done for Rory. I think Rory's probably made 5 times as much money in his short run with Bellator than he made in the same time span with UFC. I think he's probably done with Reebok and making $5,000 sponsorship money.
Yeah. So
I just think
Bellator?
he's done with all that. So I would say I could see Rory maybe exploring one potentially. Fighting overseas is something he hasn't done a whole lot of.
Gun to your head. Gun to your head. Where's he go? Where's he go?
He'll resign with Bellator, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, moving on. Nick Newell, the notorious Nick Newell, lost. A shocking loss for Nick Newell.
Yeah, shocking. Looked really good in the first round. Was very promising for him. Then he just was nullified by, is it Muro?
I believe that's
Muro?
it. Yeah.
So, I mean, right here, I didn't think Nick's lack of tools was the problem here. I just thought that his cardio failed him. I think the other guy outworked him, and Nick just was somewhat gassed out, and I think that's kind of what determined the fight.
Yeah, I was honestly, I was very surprised. I think that's look, it's not a good loss for Nick, if I'm being honest. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it was, but I do think he'll bounce back, and I think the consequences of this are going to be fairly limited. He got what he needed with that last fight when his finish in the first Bellator fight. He got that long-term contract. He's going to bounce back. He's going to be fine. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, he'll certainly get another fight. I mean, I think the jury's still out on how good he can be. So I guess we'll just wait and see.
Okay. Anything else in Bellator from this weekend you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I'll just call out Paul Daly. Big knockout over Saad Awad. I still want to see the Saba Homasi match. I think that's a nice slugfest. Patrick Mix, one of the top prospects with I think it's a Suliev stretch is what they call it. Just a great submission win. Top prospect.
Yeah. It was a weird one. It was good.
Yeah. And then I wanted to call out Baby Slice winning via TKO elbows. I personally thought a few of those were directly to the back of the head. Some thoughts on those?
They were back of the head to the way that McGregor's strikes to Poirier at the end were to the back of the head. Like they were.
I think it's a little more egregious. He was using his point of his elbow. McGregor was using a gloved fist.
Okay, can't argue with that. You know what though? It wasn't called, so it is what it is.
It was not called, exactly. It's not a foul unless the ref blows the whistle, right?
Yep, exactly. Anything else in Bellator before we move on?
Let's just call out the Ed Ruth fight. Ed Ruth fought Jason Jackson. I thought it was a fun fight. I actually thought Ruth was losing that fight. He was getting tagged up on the feet.
Oh, he definitely was losing the fight.
Yeah, so really his momentum seems to have not halted, Pico-esque, but somewhat slowed down. I didn't think he looked as good there. He seems to be wanting to strike a lot more than wrestle. You have any fights for him next? I mean, I think that's a good one for MVP, Ed Ruth wants to strike. MVP needs to prove he can stop takedowns. I mean, why not?
They will they'll never.
Yeah, they would never do it. But eventually
they're
going to have to let these guys fight each other. I mean, those are entertaining fights.
MVP sells as this confident, flashy showman, and Scott saw when he put MVP against Douglas Lima, MVP's going to get shadow realmed if he fights real guys.
So other than that, Phil Davis got a good victory against an obscure fighter. Frank Mir won a sluggish decision. Beck Rawlings lost her Bellator debut. Other than that, I think we can move on to the.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Wait, to the what? You said listener questions? Are you forgetting?
No, I said the important matters.
Okay, good. All right. It is now time for the UFC 244 preview and picks. And guys, again, I said it at the top of the show. I'm gonna say it again. And this took me by surprise. I didn't feel this way for a while, but I can tell you confidently that 6 days out, and then also last night 7 days out, there is no UFC card in 2019 I've been more excited for than UFC 244. Second place, a close second place, was UFC 241, of course, DC Miocic 2. But 244 is edging it, and I think part of that had to do with the Nate drama. But what a card! What a card from top to bottom. The main event fight.
Let's go.
Let's get to it. Jorge Gamebred Masvidal versus Nate Diaz, and I want to know, Fight Geek, who you got?
Such a tough one to call, honestly. I mean, really going to be a grinding match. I feel like both guys are impossible to finish. Without breaking it down too much, I'm just going to go out there and say it. Masvidal via split decision. Hashtag split decision podcast.
Now, here's what's real interesting about you saying Masvidal split decision. We agree on the method of victory. A split decision. But we disagree on the winner. I got Nate Diaz by split decision.
You know, I hate having to pick someone in this fight because I want both of them to win. This is one of those fights where, you know, it's so tough to pick a winner. But I could see Nate winning a decision as well. You know, it's really hard to be like steadfast in your pick on this one.
Yeah, I mean, here's how I see, and I've thought a lot about this. And by the way, when the fight was first announced, up till even a few weeks ago, I felt confident in picking Masvidal for this, and you know, all signs would really point to Masvidal winning this. But here's the thing: I think that Nate, if he can weather that early storm, and there's going to be a storm early, I promise, from Jorge. But if Nate can weather that early storm, I think that if he takes Jorge Masvidal into deep waters in Masvidal's first pay-per-view headliner, Masvidal's going to get maybe a little nervous. And you know what happens when you get nervous? You get a little tired.
Masvidal used to fight guys 100 pounds larger than him in backyards where he could have been murdered. You think he's going to be nervous on a pay-per-view stage?
Headlining a pay-per-view in front of Madison Square Garden, I think, is a different type of anxiety.
It might be, but it's certainly. I don't think Masvidal is going to be overwhelmed by the situation. I actually see this fight potentially going a lot like McGregor versus Diaz 2, where it's a grinding battle all the way through. And I think that Masvidal is going to have a deeper gas tank than Conor, so he's not going to have to run quite as much or steer clear quite as much. Definitely can defend himself in all areas of the fight versus Nate.
What makes you think Masvidal has such a great gas tank? I have to ask.
I mean, when have you seen him not have a good gas tank? A. B. He trains an American top team with absolute animals. There's nobody from that team that doesn't have a good gas tank. Dustin Poirier, Amanda Nunes, Colby Covington, Robbie Lawler. I mean, have they ever produced a fighter that doesn't have an amazing gas tank?
Okay, that's a good point. But I guess what I'm really trying to say is that I see Jorge recognizing the danger of Diaz, especially over 5 rounds. I think Jorge's going to go for the finish within, the first 2 rounds. I don't think he's going to get it. He could get it. But if I've seen one thing about Nate Diaz, he knows how to weather a storm.
Absolutely, and he comes on late. So I do think that Masvidal will win the early rounds. I think Nate will have his moments late. And I just think Masvidal will edge the decision. Not saying that's exactly what I want. That's just kind of what I'm leaning.
No, of course. All right, so you got Masvidal split decision. I got Diaz split decision, baby.
Either way, it will be an amazing event, spectacle, UFC's 500th event, main event, BMF title. Can't wait. So
All
let's
right,
keep it
moving on. Gosh, this card is so deep. I'm just looking at it. Kelvin Gastelum versus Darren Till middleweight fight. Let me go first, if that's okay. I gave you the first.
Go ahead.
This is fascinating to me. This is really interesting because I'm here's the thing. I'm gonna go with Darren Till by second round knockout, and I know that's very unpopular.
Second, so Izzy couldn't knock him out in 5 rounds, but Till's going to knock him out in 2, huh? I disagree. I'm taking Kelvin Gastelum here by decision. I think that Till's going to be very respectful, especially coming off, the type of knockout loss he's had. There's going to be some tentativeness to him. I think that Kelvin has proven that he can get on the inside versus longer strikers and land heavy stuff. He did it versus arguably the best striker in the UFC today, Israel Adesanya.
Have you seen Till? He looks like a giant, literally.
Yes, he does, but I mean, his measurements aren't that much bigger than Izzy, so it's not like this is something.
Have you seen the pictures of him recently?
Well, maybe he won't have the cardio. I mean, there's a lot of questions there. So I'm taking Kelvin, who's a more proven commodity over 5 rounds and hasn't just coming off of a highlight reel knockout.
It's only a 3-round fight, baby.
Oh, this is true. I'm still taking him. Kelvin Gastelum via unanimous decision.
Till by stoppage. Just because, look, I'm going with the interesting ballsy choice, but I also think it's going to happen.
All right, well, let's keep it moving. We got a lot to cover. So we've got another one I love. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson making his return versus Vicente Luque. Who do you got?
I got, yeah. So here's what's tough. I really love Wonderboy, and I really kind of hate Luque ever since he beat Mike Perry. It's a long story. But I got Vicente Luque via split decision. I'm sorry, it's another split. I'm sorry, it just...
Yeah, I see it as a split decision, but for Wonderboy, I just think Luque is definitely never fought someone who has a stylistic matchup like Wonderboy. Wonderboy stays on the outside. He's very hard to hit, very defensive. I think it'll be too much of a step up in skill and technical fighting of Wonderboy. He'll get the split decision. But let's keep it moving.
All right. Derek Lewis versus Blagoy Ivanov. Who you got?
Ivanov by decision. He's tougher than nails, and I think he has better cardio than Derek Lewis. So unless Lewis has come up with some new tricks, I think Ivanov will be able to eat a couple heavy shots and be there till the end. I've got decision for Ivanov.
Agreed. Wow, that was the first in the 4 first fights that we agreed on. Okay, I got it. All right, moving on. Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie. I love this fight.
There's a lot of intrigue to this fight. I think it's a great matchup.
So this is gonna be, all about Kevin Lee and which Kevin Lee shows up and whether he's ready to go or not. I think this is really important.
When you say which Kevin Lee, I mean, have we ever seen a great version of Kevin Lee?
Yeah, we saw him TKO Edson Barboza. In the 5th round in a 5-round main event. We saw him take.
What is Edson Barboza? Isn't he like 1-4 in his last 5 off the top of my head or something like that? I mean, what has Kevin Lee done to give you that kind of confidence? I'm just wondering.
He fought Tony Ferguson very, very tough at UFC 216.
Lando Venata fought him very tough as well. No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Well,
I'm taking Gregor Gillespie, so I'm trying to...
Yeah, by how? How do you see it going?
3rd round submission. I think that, especially with Kevin fluctuating his weight up to 170, potentially having a fight there, now coming back down, I just don't see how that's going to be, healthy and consistent for him making 155. He's never had, great cardio. He usually gasses out. Gillespie has amazing cardio and never gasses out, so I think eventually Kevin will get tired. Gillespie will get position and submit him.
I love Kevin Lee, and I really don't like Gregor Gillespie at all. Unfortunately, I have to pick Gregor by 2nd round submission. I'm so sorry, Kevin. feel terrible.
All right, well, let's keep it moving because even this one is excellent.
Yeah, wait,
Johnny
why is Johnny Walker versus Corey Anderson not on the main event card?
Well, because this gets to be the main event on the free portion of the fight. So everybody who's watching on regular TV is going to have to watch this exciting fight, and hopefully it's tempting them to buy the pay-per-view, you know?
All right. I got Johnny Walker via TKO in the second round, baby.
I've got Johnny Walker via knockout first round.
First round over Corey Anderson, huh?
Yeah, I think he's going to get to him. I think he's big, athletic, explosive, versatile, unpredictable. He's like everything that Corey Anderson's not. So I just think that I don't think it's going to be a good matchup unless Corey Anderson's able to shoot in, get him down, and really grind him out. But I don't see that happening.
All right. So we got to keep it moving. Were there any other fights you needed to or wanted to call out here?
Absolutely. Shane Burgos is fighting.
Makwan versus Makwan Amirkhani.
It's a great fight. Going to be a great action fight. I'm taking Burgos by TKO.
I am also taking Burgos by TKO. And I don't know, you didn't say which round. I've got that happening in the second.
I don't know. I didn't think that clearly about it. But I do have picks on Shabazian versus
Brad Tavares. Who you got?
Taking Shabazian via decision.
I got Tavares by decision, baby.
Okay, we disagree there. I think Tavares is going to fade. Shabazian's looked really good. Next fight up, Andrei Arlovsky versus Rosenstruck. Is that right?
Rosenstrike, I think. I hope it's Rosenstrike because then Strike is in his last name. All right, never mind.
I'm taking Rosenstrike by TKO. How about you?
Rosenstrike by knockout, first round.
Okay, now we'll get to the early prelims. Some good ones. What was this one?
This is still a great fight. Jennifer Maia versus Caitlin Chookagian, flyweight. That's a great fight.
Yep, I got Chookagian by decision. How about you?
I got Chookagian by decision.
In this fight, it's amazing. Julio Arce versus Hakeem Dawodu. Who do you got?
I got... That's a fun one. I got Hakeem Dawodu.
As do I. I have Dawodu by decision.
As do I. Split decision.
And the last one, I have Lyman Good by decision over Chance Rencontre.
I've got Good as well.
Okay, well that'll do it for the previews. Now we can finally get into the listener questions, right?
All right, guys. We will be right back with listener questions. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 43, here with my co-host, the Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite section, Listener Questions! Thank you. You know, I kept trying to top myself each week, and I was listening to last episode. Yes, I listened back to episodes to try to take notes and improve, guys. Anyways, I was listening back and I was like, ugh, you know, you're really going too far with it. So I'm trying to pull it back a little, Fight Geek.
You do you, Phil.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so listener questions. Thank you guys again so much. We got truly great listener questions this week. Should I go first or you? Okay, I will go first.
Sorry, I had you muted for a second, and I said go ahead.
Oh, got it. This is from longtime loyal listener Larry. That's at Larmule61. Larry, what up? He says, "Who do you see as a legitimate threat to John Jones in light heavyweight? Since he says he doesn't see one, and he will move up to heavyweight for a super fight." Uh, let me kick this one off if that's okay. First and foremost, Larry, John says a lot of things about going up to heavyweight. I will believe it when I see it. I think that he's a lot of talk, no action on heavyweight. Who do I see as his biggest threat? Well, Dominic Reyes could present problems, but ultimately, I don't think they're going to be significant ones. Would love to see the Santos rematch. Obviously, Santos did great, almost won that first fight. But I think if Johnny Walker gets the stoppage against Corey Anderson, you've got to make Walker versus Jones next. And you know what? I'm gonna really go out on a limb here, and as of right now, I would pick Walker to win.
Well, let's make sure he beats Corey Anderson. I actually think Reyes is the biggest threat to him right now. I mean, Reyes is an undefeated prospect, has shown quite a bit. The guy had one so-so performance versus Volkan, who is a former title challenger. But I think he showed a lot athletically recently with that, kind of the counter left that he landed on Weidman. He shows that he does have finishing capabilities. He's a true 205er. Big, tall, with range, similar to the size of Gustafsson, who gave Jones his best fight to date. So, I think it's Reyes, and then Walker, barring this weekend or this upcoming weekend, definitely can be a threat as well. So, I'd like to see him fight both of those guys, honestly.
Yeah, completely agree. I do think that both of them present problems. And by the way, I'd like to see a Santos too. So I'd like to see Jones Santos too. So I think he's got at least 3 fights, and even Lionheart could. Well, now we're getting biased with my Lionheart fandom, but
right.
Okay.
Well, at least Lionheart has a win over Gustafsson, so at least he has
he retired Gustafsson. He made Gustafsson quit the game.
All right. Well, we got another one. So. Got one from Fighting With Myself podcast. He says,
Juice, what up?
When Askren writes his autobiography, how will we write the UFC chapter? And if Dana writes this chapter, how will it be written? If Dana wrote the chapter, it would be titled, I Told You So. If Ben wrote the chapter, it'd be titled, A Little Too Late. Right?
Too little, too late, do you mean?
Exactly. Too little, too late on Ben's end, and then for Dana, I Told You So.
I would change the title on Dana's version to Fucking Idiot. I think he's not quite poetic enough to call it Told You So, but who knows? Maybe I'm not giving Dana enough credit. I would agree with both those, and I like that creative question.
Awesome.
Okay, you got one?
Yeah, I got one from Jalen Ware. He says, who needs a more crucial win and can't afford to lose Saturday between Stephen Thompson and Kevin Lee? Ooh, that's a very good question. These are both must-wins for both guys.
Who needs the win more, you're asking?
Yes.
Kevin Lee.
Kevin Lee. If Wonderboy loses this weekend, there's probably zero path back to the title for him. I believe he's 37?
Yeah,
something
but
like that.
He ain't
Kevin
getting
Lee is 27, so he has a whole decade on him. I would say it's Wonderboy, because if Wonderboy loses to a fringe top 15 guy like Luque, his title hopes are done.
I mean, I would honestly argue with you that Wonderboy's title hopes are done already.
Well, at least he had title hopes, so don't you think it would be more imperative that he wins? Kevin Lee's never even reached that realm. And
Kevin Lee fought for the interim belt and fought Tony Hard.
The interim belt and fought Tony Hard. Okay. No, he's not quite reached the heights of Wonderboy, but for sure. I think Wonderboy has to win this, or else he becomes somewhat obscure, especially considering his fights aren't always that entertaining.
All right, well, I'm not going to budge. We disagree. I think Lee needs to win more. So I'm not budging. And you know what?
All
No
right.
one can be proven right. So I look forward to
So
a
Lee,
very
if he
long
loses,
argument.
he goes from unranked to unranked.
They ain't. You think they cut him? I don't think so.
No, I don't think they cut him, but I mean, he's already not ranked, so it's not like he has a whole lot to lose. Where I think Wonder Boys are still top 7 in the division, coming off a knockout loss to a lightweight. If he loses this, he probably will drop completely out of the top 10. So you're talking about a guy who challenged for the title twice, becoming completely irrelevant in the title picture. So, anyways, we can agree to disagree on that one. Good question.
All right. All right. Moving on to one of the closest friends of the podcast, very, very close friend of both myself and the Fight Geek, Mr. Kenneth Robert. That's at Mr. underscore Tiddlewinks. He
Your
says,
hat's on the way, Kenneth. Sorry for the delay, buddy.
all right, hats on the way, Kenneth. Hats on the way. Do you think there's a chance that we will ever see DJ compete in the UFC again sometime down the road? Other fighters have left and come back later in their careers. I still think he's the best flyweight in the world, and I would like to see the rubber match with Cejudo. Kenneth, first and foremost, agreed. I would love to see the rubber match with Cejudo. I really would. Man, I'd love to see it.
Agreed. I think everybody would love to see that. I truly believe DJ is still the best flyweight in the world, so I agree on both points there. I think there's a small chance we could see him back someday, but I don't think it's probable. So yeah, those are my answers. Not probable, and I agree, and I agree.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's in the DJ situation, Fight Geek, it's gotten so fascinating because of what Henry's now accomplished. I mean, DJ was never gonna go for two
But what has
belts.
he accomplished in flyweight? He hasn't beaten another flyweight since DJ left.
Well, he knocked out TJ Dillashaw in seconds. Many thought on
Bantamweight was
EPO.
cutting way too much weight.
Dillashaw was on EPO. Juice to the gills.
You got that?
No, I was having a lot of trouble. Now I've got it.
My point is, yes, that's a nice win for Henry, but since he won the flyweight belt from DJ, he hasn't technically fought another flyweight. It's just a fact.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone's calling for the Benavidez rematch, inferring that Benavidez has his number. Let me tell you something, Fight Geek. I saw the first fight.
I'm not saying Benavidez has his number, but Benavidez deserves a chance to contest for that belt.
Did you see the first fight?
Yes, of course.
Who'd you score it for? Because I scored for Cejudo for sure.
I do think I actually scored it for Benavidez, honestly.
Wow. Cejudo won that fight, so that's interesting.
But he didn't, though, right?
Just, what's the next question? Moving on!
All right, I got one pulled up from Glitch at MMA
Glitch,
he said,
what up? I love Glitch.
If Rory and Lima have a third fight, who wins? And I did a poll right after the fight. It's about 65-35 that people don't want to see the trilogy, and I think that's because of the lackluster performance by Rory. At this point, if they were to run it back anytime soon, I think Lima has to be an overwhelming favorite.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, like, at first when you said 65-35, I was thinking 35% think Rory would win?
No, 35% want to see a trilogy. 65% don't even want to see a third
Well,
fight.
that's because they're Rory fans and they don't want to see him lose again.
Well, whatever. I think,
Yeah,
no matter how
Lima
the
would win.
fights look 1-1, a trilogy makes sense. But I do think Lima would have to be an overwhelming favorite.
Well, the first one was super close and Rory edged him. Then the second one was not super close at all and Lima won.
Well, he didn't get knocked out like DC for Stipe. I'm just kidding. All right, let's keep it moving.
Okay. See, I'm not even just keep it moving, Fight Geek. I'm not in the mood for your games.
All right, I got one from Nathan at @N_Web1212. He says if Masvidal wins on Saturday, he'll probably get the next title shot. Will Nate get a title shot if he wins? Question mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really wow, Nathan, that is such a great question, bro. I love it. Because here is my answer. everyone's talking about what's McGregor going to do next. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And I know he's announced this January date, you know.
Yeah, on a press conference that wasn't ran or produced by the UFC. He did that completely on his own. He's just going freelance, off the wall, renegade, having press conferences announcing his fights. I'm not sure how much weight to put in that press conference.
I think that, I mean, look, you guys have already heard that I think that Nate's going to beat Masvidal next Saturday. I think that if Nate wins that fight, then it's Conor Nate 3 and the end. No?
I don't know. Nate called out Masvidal because of, he wanted to fight a specific fighter, not Conor. So who knows? Maybe Nate will have another person on the tip of his tongue that he wants to defend his BMF title against if he wins. For some reason, I don't think that's going to be Conor. But honestly, if Nate wins this weekend, I would say yes, he will be next in line to fight after the Colby Usman stuff is figured out.
That's fascinating. Okay, so you think that Nate would get the title shot off of this win, right?
Absolutely. With what they're putting into this promotionally, everybody's going to see this fight. This is going to... I mean, Nate Diaz is coming off a lot of momentum with the Pettis win. Masvidal is just an ascending star for the UFC. Whoever wins this is going to be arguably a top 3 star in the UFC currently, right?
No, absolutely, and I think Masvidal 100% gets the title shot if he wins. I just think if Nate wins, and look, guys, this isn't me being a McGregor stan or anything. We all know how much money McGregor makes. He's still a huge draw, regardless of what diehards think of him, which is not anything good. McGregor DS3 makes all the sense in the world if Nate wins.
I agree, but what I'm saying is Nate may be on to other things. He may not be wanting to play the Conor McGregor game. Same way
I hope so. The truth is, I hope you're right. I'd prefer that.
All right, I got another one queued up for a reusable shoe.
Reusable shoe, what up? One of our day ones. What up?
All right, he asks, do you think Gane is a future contender at heavyweight? Yes, no, go.
Contender? Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. I think we touched on it earlier. I'm super impressed that he's showing the ability to finish via submission, even though he's coming up as a striker. I think that's very promising. So, yes, of course. All right, got another one by MMA by Milliken, another one of our show regulars.
What up?
He asks, what should the UFC light heavyweight rankings be right now? It's kind of tough off the top of my head, but I certainly think that it should be John Jones 1, Reyes 2, Santos 3, and Corey Anderson 4, Anthony Smith 5.
What? Smith is definitely over Anderson. How dare you?
Well, Corey Anderson's on a 3-fight win streak.
No one cares. No one.
Well, the rankings have to reflect recent performance, or else
Lionheart just retired Alexander Gustafsson. He just retired him.
One fight
in
after
Sweden.
One fight after going 50-44 versus Jones.
It wasn't 50-44. He could have taken the belt from that illegal knee.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever to you. Yeah, whatever to you and your weird Corey Anderson amazement infatuation.
All right, so that's what I think of that. You have a better ranking? Go ahead.
No, I agreed. I agree. Except switch Smith and Corey Anderson for sure.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Moving on. This is from Mr. B. That's at Mr. B 1986. Mr. B. Love Mr. B. 1. Do you guys think Nunes retires if she beats GDR? Why do I say J when it's a G? It's kind of embarrassing.
Well, it's like JDS. It plays with your head a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then 2, what are your thoughts on whether Cejudo should vacate the flyweight title? Number 1, do you think Nunes retires if she beats GDR? Go ahead.
Absolutely not.
Agreed. No way.
Yeah. The second question, though, I think is really interesting, so ask me.
Okay. Will Cejudo vacate the flyweight title, or is he going to defend it?
absolutely will not vacate that title. That is the title he won off one of the pound-for-pound GOATs, DJ. That is what he's worth. That belt right there is who he is. There's no way he should vacate that belt. That's the greatest achievement of his professional career.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And listen, when you're double champ and you're the simultaneous defending champ, if you vacate one of your belts, you cut your worth in half at least. At least.
Well, and that's his true weight class. So, I mean...
Well, I mean, he's made it... I mean, we all know that he prefers bantamweight.
It's one thing that he may prefer it, but what's more impressive, winning a vacant title for Marlon Moraes or beating a 14-time defending champion in DJ, who's arguably the Mount Rushmore of MMA? So,
well, he won he won a controversial split decision against Mighty Mouse versus a dominating.
What I'm saying is, Mighty Mouse's belt weighs 100 pounds. That belt that he won off Marlon Moraes weighs 10.
So you're weighing the belt by just weighing DJ?
By historical, I'm weighing it by historical significance.
How much does DJ honestly weigh?
No, whatever.
Okay.
So let's keep it moving. You're not understanding what I'm saying.
No, I am. I'm just being a smartass. I get what you're saying.
All right.
Okay.
I got one queued up from Quinn at Orthodox 1993. What up,
Quinn? What up?
Who does Ngannou fight next, since they will be booking Stipe DC3? Rematch with Derek Lewis if he wins this weekend? ?
Ooh, I'd see it. I'd like to see it. I was gonna say I'd like to see it if that happens.
Who does? No, I don't want to see that again.
If Lewis beats Blagoy, I would. He won't, but.
Well, we've already seen that fight. It was horrible. I'd rather see him fight the winner of Volkov and Greg Hardy.
Oh, yeah, so would I. No, I'd rather see that too.
Because if Greg Hardy somehow finds a way to beat Volkov, how amazing would it be to put him in there with Francis Ngannou? So that's a great storyline there. And if Volkov wins as expected, that's a true contender type matchup to see who's next for the belt.
Yeah, really quick, I know that that's not this weekend, but Volkov Hardy is fascinating. Honestly, some genuine quick respect to Hardy for taking the fight, but I want to really quickly say, I think people that are picking Hardy are, I mean, look, maybe it's heavyweight, anything can happen. I think
you cannot pick Hardy in that fight.
No way.
He looks awkward and out of his depth versus guys like Jeff Hughes. Or no, not Jeff Hughes.
He had his hands full last fight.
Yeah, it was Sassoli or whatever.
He had his hands full in that.
Volkov is a giant who's a former Bellator champion, who's one of the top heavyweights walking the planet today. So that is
who was beating the shit out of Derek Lewis until 15 seconds to go.
He's very technical too for a big guy. He's like a Stefan Struve type, but he's more technical.
It's actually a fascinatingly bad match. It's not just a high matchup, it's a bad high matchup for Hardy.
Well, it's a horrible matchup for Hardy, experience and size-wise. I mean, but you gotta give him some credit for taking a fight like that.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, all right, it's kind of like sink or swim moment, so I'm sure we'll all be tuned in, and that's all that really matters.
Yup. Okay, this is from, I got one from Strike, at Strike MX NYC. What up, Strike? He's been a very loyal listener as well, so shout out to you, Strike. Does a healthy Jose Aldo, assuming he's not diminished by the cut, win the 135 belt? Go ahead.
No. I mean, maybe I'm just not sold on this, Jose Aldo has, miles and miles and miles on his fight career. I just don't think going down, depleting his body that way when he's notoriously been known as a guy who fades late in fights and as a guy who had to cut a lot to get to 145. I just don't see how this is beneficial. Yes, he'll probably have some length and some reach advantages and he won't be dealing with as much power, but it seems kind of unfathomable for him to get to 135. So until I see it, I don't think it's a great idea.
Totally agree. I have I literally have no idea how Aldo's planning to make 135 still because I remember that I know for a fact his 145 cuts are harsh, and he used to talk about lightweight all the time. Remember?
Yeah, that was always the thing. It was inevitable that he would have to move up because the weight cuts were so hard. So it's really surprising he's able to get down to 135. I've seen some pictures of him. He looks very, very thin. So, like I said, until I see it, and then to go in versus Moraes, obviously that fight is very intriguing. It's very exciting to think about
Aldo's
Aldo
getting
and Moraes fighting
so
each other.
slapped, bro.
Well, Aldo's going to have a lot of power too, but again, we just don't know how that chin's going to hold up. Just like with TJ cutting all that weight to get to 125,
Yep.
you just cannot weather damage whenever you're depleting yourself like that. So
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting to see. But no, I don't think that Aldo will be the champion of that division personally.
Yeah, and did we answer the question from the man, the myth, the legend, Jim Asoon?
We did not. I was going to call it. Go ahead.
Jim Asoon! Love Jim. He says, who is the biggest threat to take the title from Douglas Lima now? Hashtag AskSplitPod. Thank you for using the hashtag, Jim. You're a legend. What do you think, Fight Geek?
It's a tough one. It really is a tough one. You think the really only weakness we've seen from him is his takedown defense and guys being able to grind him out, but I don't think there's someone who possesses an elite skill set in Bellator that will really challenge him that way.
He stuffed a lot of Rory takedowns.
Yeah, but Rory's not notoriously known as like a Woodley-type wrestler or an Usman-type wrestler. Rory is a mixed martial artist and is mostly a striker. So defending takedowns versus Rory isn't like the most impressive thing of all time. Yeah, Rory has a solid shot, but he's not a wrestler by trade. So there are other wrestlers.
He's not. Like I don't know if he's not a pure. You're saying Rory's a pure striker? I don't know.
No, Rory is a pure mixed martial artist.
Yeah.
He came into the game as like a 16-year-old who was one of the first fighters to train the whole realm.
Right.
So he doesn't technically have a specialty, but wrestling certainly isn't his specialty. Is all I'm getting at.
Okay.
So like a Colby Covington, I could see giving Lima big problems with his pace and his takedown. But I don't think there's a skill set like that in Bellator. So, I see him reigning unless someone clips him, and I just don't see that happening. So maybe someday, I actually think a grinding style like John Fitch could give him problems because Fitch is just relentless with his takedown attempts and could potentially grind out a decision. Other than that, I think Lima could be a dominant champion.
I agree. Look, who's going to take the belt from Lima and Bellator soon? I don't know. No one.
Yeah, it's not looking good. So, all right. Thanks for that question. I got one here from Hectic One.
He says,
I would like to hear you guys workshop the name of Maya's new belt he wants the UFC to create. Baddest Grapple Fucker. Jits God belt. Those are a couple of them. What do you got one?
Give me 5 seconds. Keep talking.
I'm going to say I don't need BMF, the backpack belt, I don't know.
Grappling's amazing Maya Entertainment Realism belt. The Gamer. I don't know.
We'll call it the Strangle God belt.
I think my Gamer comment.
SGB, Strangle God.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, what is it? SGB, the Strangle God belt. I like that a lot more than the Gamer one I just made up.
All right. I don't know how solid it is, but we did workshop it live, so hopefully we answered your question. Okay, I got another one here or do I have another one here? You got one?
I think that might have been it. Is that it? Is that everyone?
I'm gonna circle around one more time. It actually might look like it. I know things are a little different on Sunday nights, guys. Thanks for all the questions. Hopefully we'll get Everybody back on schedule the same way we were on Mondays and Tuesdays. So, Phil, you want to...
Thank you guys so much. Seriously, Split Decision Podcast fam, we would not keep doing this without all of your support, and you guys just keep on beating our records. We're beating listener records every single episode. I know that we've only done 2 episodes in the last 4 weeks, which is not going to be happening regularly. In fact, I'm very confident that we are going to be weekly for a long time to come on Sundays. Thank you so much. I'm handing it over to Fight Geek. Take us away, baby.
All right, guys. As usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at The Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. It's 4 words, The Split Decision Podcast. Thanks a ton for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.